You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Skims or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. It's home of ShopPay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/income.
Expedia and Visit Scotland invite you to come experience the beauty that awaits in Scotland. The sweep of wild coastlines, quiet lochs, and untamed landscapes. Fresh cuisine that feels rooted in the land. Come experience the kind of stillness that stays with you long after you leave. Plan your Scottish escape today at expedia.com/Visit Scotland.
What is up, good people, and welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast. This week, I am talking to Doug Robinson, who you might know from his band, The Sleeping, but he has a new project, and it is called Held, and it absolutely rips. Now, what is so cool about this is Doug is not known as a guitarist, but I have a strong feeling that that is all about to change. He is playing guitar in this band, and let me tell you, for somebody who's quote-unquote not known as a guitarist, these riffs are sick. And we talk a lot about what that has been like for him, what his process looks like, and how he has started to dip his toe into the gear world and his love for the Gibson SG. And speaking of Gibson, and speaking of loving, your time is nearly up. If you're hearing this episode as it drops, your time is nearly up. We at Stringjoy are giving away a Mark Morton signature Les Paul. Yes, a real deal Gibson Les Paul. And it's not just a signature guitar. It also has his real signature on it. I think we forgot to mention that when Mark was on the podcast here a few weeks ago. Yeah, this is a big deal. This is Summer of Stringjoy #1 for 2026, and it is almost over. So go to stringjoy.com to check that out and get yourself an entry into this fabulous contest. All right, without further ado, let's get into this episode with Doug Robinson. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, a show about guitar stuff, occasionally, sometimes. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today, I have Doug Robinson from, well, lots of things, but probably best known as from The Sleeping and Held recently. Let's get into it, man. How you doing?
What's up? I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm doing really well. Just excited to be here and excited for, how appreciative everyone seems to be of the album so far, and how it's really nice having like really cool talks with people that, it's nice to connect in a way that I haven't really done in a long time. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited to have you on. When this came up, I got really excited because, I guess the listeners know this. We are a My Chemical Romance household, especially my 7-year-old Rocky. He's completely obsessed. He's got the posters on the wall. He's got the whole thing. Frank's been on the show a couple times. He's a great guy. And so when I saw him guesting on this, I was like, Rocky, we got a video to watch. And then I watched awesome. You, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. And everything kind of clicked in, and I was like, oh, I see what's happening here. Cool. I'm even more excited. But the riffs, man. Your riffs are killer on this record. I mean, they always have been, but I feel like you took something to the next level on this. What happened? This is just killer.
Well, this is my first album playing guitar.
Okay.
Yeah. So in The Sleeping, I'm just a singer.
Okay. I thought I can never get a good gauge on that, because sometimes there's like, that's the singer. Oh, but like in my chem, Gerard also plays guitar.
For
but
sure,
he's just
yeah.
not known as the guitar player, right?
Right, yeah. So, I've played maybe one song or two, I believe, on one of the last Sleeping records, not the newest one, but the one before that. But guitar, I've always played guitar. My first bands I was in when I was in, middle school and high school, I played guitar until I started singing, with the Sleeping. And just from there, I never really liked guitar. I kind of got over it. I mean, in my time with the Sleeping, when I had played those 2 tracks, I hated playing guitar. I hated loading the gear, right? Like I was definitely a lazy, I was a lazy singer in that sense. And, there's like the memes that go around of like, well, every singer is like that. But, when I was younger, I didn't really think of anything other than just playing. So when it came to like playing guitar, it just felt like so much more work, and just like I just wanted to get on stage and just sing and not have to be bound to a guitar. And when this band started, and when our other opportunities to like have our friends join fell through because of timing, Sal was just like, why don't you play? You play guitar. And something came over me where I just kind of fell in love with it again and started playing like crazy. And it's funny because so many people, and this is just from what's been happening, it's not any type of way of a boast or anything, but so many people have been mentioning the riffs of the guitar work. And our A&R at our label was like, I think you're going to be really surprised at how many people are going to talk to you about your guitar playing, because in my head it's just singing, right? I'm always the singer, but now I play guitar. So to have all this really positive talks about my guitar playing, it's still very new to me, and this is actually my first guitar centric podcast I'm doing. So
okay,
I appreciate the kind words already. I mean, you said one thing, but it's given me like an elation, because this is so new to me, and to hear that people are gravitating towards the playing, from all of us, but in this case to the guitar, it's like it's really cool, because it's still new for me to like kind of hear that.
Yeah, from all of you for sure. I mean, it's Sal and Josh. It's like, what are you gonna do? Like they're killing it, right?
Beyond, yeah.
And it's kind of surprising to hear that, because like I said, I just kind of assumed that there was more guitaring in your past than there had been. Obviously, there's some, but I just assumed there was more just based on what I was now learning. And so I'm still kind of like, wow, I got to step my game up. This guy who didn't even care about guitar for a long time is killing it. I got to get my riff game back on track.
Yeah. Thanks, man. No, I mean, it just kind of called to me at that point. I think it was the moment where, something just spoke to me. Like, obviously it was the necessity of Sal being like, you should play. But it really turned into a love for it again in like a big way. And now I feel like unstoppable behind the guitar. And, one of the things I really feel about it that makes me really enjoy playing it is like, I'm past the, I don't shred kind of thing, because what we're surrounded by on the internet and things like that, it's like, I know so many incredible guitar players. I'm blessed to be in bands with them, in my other projects and whatnot. But that took me, that was probably the most difficult thing for a minute for me to overcome, was picking up a guitar knowing I'm not like a shredder by nature. But now I realize like, oh man, like I would much rather play the way I play than thinking I had to be in a different school of playing altogether. And now I love my type of playing and approach and ideas. I'm really confident in them, because now I'm finally over that insecurity of like, you don't have to like necessarily technically shred, you can be a ripper with feel in your own way. And, my feel definitely speaks on the forefront. But, I grew up listening to bands that are very guitar like oriented, not even necessarily driven, but like I like a lot of bands. I love their guitars are leaders, but in like a very textural way. Like I love Pretty Girls Make Graves, At the Drive-In, ISIS, Maserati, like post-rock bands like that. There's such an eclectic mix for me where guitar is always in the forefront, but it doesn't act like, here I am, it's more like, let's work together. And so far it's made me very confident in knowing that I'm writing the way that I'm writing, and we're making songs that we're making because we're individualistic and our personalities shine through our guitar playing. And at first I wasn't sure what that was for me, and now I feel like it's like, all I want is the personality first. The rest will fall in line,
Yeah, it took me way longer than it should have to figure out that, my first rock concert ever, and I've talked about this on the internet a few times recently because I realized how kind of hilarious it is. My first rock concert ever was Dream Theater on the Train of Thought tour. Yeah. So my first live, not my first live experience. I'd seen like some local cover bands and been to like a country festival with my parents. So I had seen live music before, but my first, like, I'm going to a club with my friends to catch a band at, like, I don't remember, 14 or 13 or whatever I was Dream Theater at the Roseland Theater in Portland. And on the Train of Thought tour, maybe their heaviest record, arguably. And so I was like, oh, that's what guitar playing is. And I didn't play guitar really at the time. I was like barely figuring out cowboy chords. But that's not the stuff I gravitated towards as I got older. I was more into punk and metal, of course, and hardcore and these things that were a lot more stripped down. But even still, in my brain, I had this little part of me that was like, you got to shred though. You don't know how to play guitar. You don't know how to do any of that stuff. You can barely play, 3-chord punk rock. You don't play guitar. You just like guitars. And I don't know, it wasn't until I started doing stuff on the internet. I didn't even post my playing on the internet for a long time, really. I was still like in the early days of Instagram being like, here's a picture of this pedal and here's this. And I didn't start posting my playing probably till I'd already been making content and doing the podcast for several years. Yeah. And it took me a long time to figure out, like, no, you can just do what you do and people will appreciate that. And that's all you got to do. You don't have to worry about being John Petrucci or Steve Vai. Let them do that. That's great. It's great that people can do that, but you don't have to.
And to your point, you can just do what you do, and you also can just do what you do without showing the internet. You know what I mean? And that was something that was, a learning curve for me a little bit as well, because, I'm not saying that's never going to happen, right? Like, we're not going to play stuff down the line. Like, I would like to do it in our own way. That would be really cool. I know there's an importance of just like making content and things like that. But like, there was that hump of like, do we have to do this? Because myself and Sal and even Josh, like, I think it's a lot more natural and comes across way cooler for a drummer to do drum playthroughs, because it's just like, it's so physical and like, it's just got this like really cool thing. So like, I feel like that never looks cheesy to me, any drum playthroughs. But guitars and bass, I just always like, it just never, a lot of those playthroughs never hit me. I just don't really, I don't come from a world where like I want to be like mesmerized by like what someone's playing. So for a while it was just like, man, am I going to have to do this and things like that. And then I realized like, hey, maybe one day I can, but like I don't have to. So like, who cares, And that definitely helped me kind of get over certain like insecurities too, because it's not like you're necessarily comparing yourself to others, but at the same time you're comparing the landscape. So when I'm looking at the fact that everybody does playthroughs, I'm like, I'm not that type of person. I come from like, and not saying people that do playthroughs don't, but I come from a school of just being in a room and ripping, you know what I mean? Like with your friends or on stage, like, so like feeling like you have to like set this whole world up and do it is still very like new and uncharted territory for me. But there's so many people who do it well, right? Like my old band I sang for, still my closest friends to this day, like Night Verses, right? Like Nick DePiro, like the way he plays and the way he does his videos are awesome. He has his vibe, and I know Nick so well that's Nick.
He's one of my favorite players. I love his style.
He's incredible. And being in bands with people like him And then picking up a guitar, I'm like, okay, like, can I do this? But, I think there is a world for it. And I do think with certain people it works. But, I think, like you said, coming from a school of punk rock too. I mean, NoFX was like the first band I had ever heard in my life in like 1992 or whenever it was, 1991. And it changed my whole life. And like, there are elements on our record where there is punk rock because, even though we're playing these riffs and we're making this music that's definitely more, intriguing, I guess you can say, in some ways of like what a 3-piece is trying to approach, there are those moments, and Sal's the same way and Josh is the same way. Like, we're all like punk rock people, so to have those elements, I think that's a great blend to have when you are a musician. I think punk rock should be like, I think it should be a line on everyone's resume, right?
Yeah.
Because it teaches you how to not, it's weird, ironically, right? Like, it teaches you how to not be taught in a way. And,
right.
If that makes any sense, it's like there is an element of I guess, like danger, and I'm not being dramatic, I'm just trying to find the right word. There's an element of like adventure in playing when you come from a punk rock world. I think a lot of people that come from these like very calculated metal worlds, I feel like there isn't that sense of adventurous like spirit. It's more like along the lines of, calculating to your click and things like that, which again, there's a world for that. And there's a lot of music I do like that has that element. Mm-hmm. But, for me, it's like, I find the joy of that sort of punk rock ethos surrounding these like approaches of like, emulating sonic textures that I love. Like, your bands, like I said, like Isis, Tool, At the Drive-In, Failure, A Perfect Circle. Like, I love approaching music with that umbrella as an inspiration, but being able to do it in our own way and in a very punk rock way.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think for me, having like a lot more conversations, like when I first started, I was talking to a lot of builders, and I still do that, like pedal builders, amp builders, guitar builders, company owners, and that's still a big part of the show. But as I got to talk to more artists whose work I admired, I started realizing like, I'm not wired entirely different than these people the way I thought I was. I thought there was like another kind of level, and obviously there's people who we've talked about already, like that are just mind-blowingly talented and technical. But in talking to more people, I'm like, I kind of have this same. I had to realize like I was doing the imposter syndrome thing a little bit, where I'm like, that's not me. I'm not that. But it's like, oh no, actually I am. I'm exactly that, because we're having these conversations and we have a similar thought process and similar ideas about how to approach things, and it's really refreshing to see people talk about what drives them, because I think people listening can relate. They realize that we are all kind of coming from this same background in a lot of ways, and like I just think that the old music world had a way of kind of elevating people in not in an intentionally false way, but in a way that made it feel a little unattainable when it really never has been. It's like everybody can do some version of it, if that makes any sense.
But is it too attainable now because it's at your fingertips every second? Like I almost like where certain things felt unattainable, right? Because like you said, like you appreciate people's drives and what drives them. Like I used to love knowing that every band I loved was like on a pedestal, right? Like you couldn't touch them because it gave you something to strive for, right? Like I talk about this a bunch, but I remember seeing, I think it was either Metal Hammer or Hit Parader, and it very well could have been Kerrang or Rock Sound, but it was like a major magazine, and it was like Maynard from Tool's first ever interview years later after Tool has been like, riding the wave or you're creating the wave, I should say. Mm-hmm. And I remember seeing his face, and like no one had seen his face at that point, at least in the way that they showed him on the cover. And he had all these like wires in his head. Yeah. And I just remember being like, I want that. Whatever that is, I want to be that, right? And I liked that gave you something to strive for. I think one of the problems with social media, and I feel like I'm obviously not reinventing the wheel with my thoughts here or my insight, but I think things are too attainable, right? There becomes an oversaturation. There almost seems like there becomes a direct competition of who can do this the craziest or who can shred or whatever the case, right? Where like I miss the landscape of like, you want to be like one of these bands that you only see whenever they come through and you can only find out through like magazines or their website, like go and achieve that, Now it's like you can pause videos, you can slow motion it, play it in halftime, even less. Like at what point does it feel too attainable, right? Like that spirit of needing and wondering what it could be if you went for it in a way that's less at your fingertips than it is now is something that I grew up I'm very appreciative I came from that world of being a dreamer to something that I thought was never reachable because it just made me go even harder. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense.
Well, there's also an enjoyable element of the mystery, right? I just
Totally.
had this conversation with Mark Morton in a little way, and we kind of got sidetracked from it. But we were talking about how the veneer of what being in a rock and roll band looked like, he's like, don't you want people to think that it's all like Guns N' Roses back in the day? Don't you want them to kind of have that perception that it's larger than life and over the top and it's this crazy thing, even if maybe it's not? And I'm maybe putting words in his mouth there. I don't think he said it exactly like that. Go back and listen to the episode, everybody. But I kind of get what he's saying, because part of me does miss not knowing, like, and wondering what was going on in the creative process, and like, oh, I wonder how they come up with that lyric. And now we oftentimes get to find out. And I do think, I mean, it's weird because I like both sides, and I'm obviously somebody who drags things out of people for a living. That's what I do. But I also appreciate there's an entertainment value in like wondering why your favorite band did something and not having access to their inner dialogue and thoughts, and so some of the mystery I think is a good thing. But I also think ripping down the curtain is good too, so people can know what it's really like. I think there's value to both things, and I'm glad, like you are, that I got to experience both things, actually. And I can't say one way was better, but there was definitely something fun as a audience member, as a listener, about not knowing. It almost made you fixate on it even more in some ways.
Totally. I mean, that's what it did for me. I don't think I would be the musician I am today if I didn't consume music in a way that felt like, in order to get there, I had to break every wall down to get there. You know what I mean? Like everything felt unattainable. Of course, and I say this sincerely, there's good and bad sides to both, right? I mean, it is a cool thing to see the world we live in now and hear what people can do with a guitar, or watch these moments where you're like, wow, I didn't really know you can go there or move this way or work your hand this way. But I think the proof of who can stand those tests of time is like, you watch a certain instrumentalist online doing like a 30-second guitar clip, but like, have they ever been in a band? Do they write with 3 other people? Do they mesh well with 3 other people? Or are they just someone who's like, look what I can do for 30 seconds, and then they spend 5 hours making the next look what I can do clip, right? Like, I think there's the give and take of social media and what I was saying, that more primitive approach. Of course, it's awesome to be able to go, how do you do this? Oh, let me watch this, or whatever the case may be. I see the pros of that stuff. And of course, the biggest pro is it's more outreach. It's more recognition, which, at the end of the day, that's what every musician wants, like for the most part, right? Like I make music for me, and I could speak for the whole band. Like we all make music for ourselves, but for it to reach other people, of course, that's a goal after our hearts are poured onto what we create, we want it to reach other people, right? So I do see the positive of that side of social media and outreach and things like that. But, it's the same way I view like skateboarding too. I mean, there are kids doing the craziest tricks now, but so many of those kids are just learning from watching YouTube videos, and it's amazing. But there was a school before that where like there were no like YouTube, platforms or anything. You had to learn from watching your friends or whatever the case may be, right? And I just think that I always compare it with music because it was such an interesting thing to see how like skateboarding's evolved as well, where it started off in this way that it's like you do not know unless you do it. And now, of course, people are putting in the physical work, but it's much easier to see how something's done through hours and hours and hours of footage. So when kids are like 9 years old, they're doing things that like adults can't even do yet. And again, the good and the bad. But I just compare the two sometimes because both are very interesting in how they've like evolved over the years or changed or shifted,
Hey, Rocky.
What's up, Vincent?
Did you hear about the latest?
Latest what?
The latest drop from Maris. It's totally insane.
No, tell me more.
Maris just released Enzo X.
What's that?
Enzo X is a supernova expansion from the original Enzo into the highest quality and most flexible studio synthesizer ever created in a pedal format.
Whoa!
Enzo X combines 5 synth types, 5 drives, 3 reverbs, and 5 modulations. It also includes a full 2.5 second stereo delay, all in one pedal.
That sounds hard to use.
It's not. The UI is from the same family as the Mercury X and the LVX. It's super easy to dive in and see exactly what you are tweaking in real time.
Oh, I see. It's right there on the screen.
Yep.
Is it this for guitars, though?
Nope. You can plug almost anything into the Enzo X, including your MIDI controller.
That sounds incredible. Where do I get it?
You can pick up Enzo X online at maris.us or at any of their fine retailers across the globe.
Did you just say across the globe?
They know what I meant.
Wait, are we getting paid for this?
I'm still waiting on that cash money from last time.
He better at least give us pizza for dinner.
I'm not giving him his Enzo X back until he does.
For more information, make sure you check out maris.us, and apparently I have to go order a pizza. How exactly do artists get their music on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, all these services? How in the world do you get your music there? Well, in the past, you had to use something called a record label. But these days, you can use DistroKid. DistroKid is the absolute easiest way to get your music up on streaming services, and it's the most affordable way to do so. Not only do plans start at $22.99 for the entire year, that's less than $2 a month, DistroKid also does not take a cut of your streaming revenue, unlike some other services out there. Even better if you sign up by going to tonemob.com/distrokid. That's tonemob.com/distrokid. One more time, that's tonemob.com/distrokid. You'll get 30% off. That's right, 30% off their already extremely reasonable prices. So go to tonemob.com/distrokid and get your music out there. We are brought to you today by Sweetwater, specifically the Gear Exchange. You may have heard about this. This is a place where you can go to buy and sell your used gear. Maybe you got a pedal over there that's just kind of collecting dust. Maybe there's something you've been eyeing from the Sweetwater catalog. Well, right now is a great time to turn that unused gear into something you're actually going to use. Even better, if you sell on the Gear Exchange, you can keep 100% of the sale as long as you choose a Sweetwater gift card as your payout method. That is not too shabby because, let's be honest, most of this buying and selling we do is just to fund new gear purchases, and that is a great way to reach a wide variety of customers and keep 100% in your pocket, or rather on your pedal board. So go check out the Sweetwater Gear Exchange and turn that unused gear into something that's actually going to help you write that next huge riff. Well, I think they're also very related. I remember reading Slap Skateboard magazine. I think I've told this story before, but they had a how-to thing maybe they did it every year. I don't know. I had one issue of their how-to, and some of it was like how to kickflip, how to ollie, like basic skating stuff. But then there was things that actually inspired me more, which was like how to shoot a skate video, how to start a zine, one was how to start a band. And what was really eye-opening for me then, because I don't think I was playing at that point, or I was definitely interested, but it was like, do you guys know how to play your instruments? No? It doesn't matter. And I was like, what, it doesn't? Wait a minute. I thought you had to know how to play your instruments to be in a band. And of course, that's like a bit of a tongue-in-cheek thing, but a lot of bands start by just saying, like, you're going to be the drummer, you're going to be the bass player, and you're going to be the guitarist, and we're all 12 to 15 years old and have no idea what we're doing. So throw them in a room and figure it out. That's happened thousands of times, and I think a little bit of that may never quite come again, because I think by the time kids are thinking about forming a band now, they probably have been playing for a little bit, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you got to have some knowledge. But there's something magical about, 3 or 4 morons getting in there and be like, I don't know, I think this is a power chord.
Yeah. Well, that's what I hope still happens, right? And none of what I say is to come off pretentious or like, oh, like he's an old guy the way he thinks. Like I take the good and the bad with everything, but that's how my first band started. I had met my drummer from my first band in Spanish class, and we would sit next to each other and we would just listen to music on a pair of headphones. And, she was like I would listen to music and she would listen to music, and we'd kind of just like doze off and just go into our own world. And one day she's like, what are you listening to? And we started realizing we liked the same things. And we would like get kicked out of class like every day because we just listened to music together. And eventually she's like, hey, you should come to my house. I have like a bunch of instruments. She had a whole setup. And I was like, all right, well, I can't remember how it went. I think I was like, you play drums because I want to play bass or something, right?
Yes,
like, and we need a bass and a drummer instead, and that's how it happened. And then I started playing guitar. And then after guitar, I was like, I think I just want to sing. And it was just cool that we were able to all like delegate who's doing what. And then I was like, I don't know. Like there was trial and error, which again, there's not saying that's not the way it is in the new world of how everyone's approaching that like more social media forward music. But I hope people still have that sense of, like I said, adventure. I mean, like music is an identity, right? And a lot of people on social media, that's their identity. Social media is their identity, right? It's like music is just the conduit to get to their identity. Travel blogs is a conduit to get to someone's identity on social media, right? Like, I want to see people where like their identity is their art first. And I think sometimes with social media, I get that skewed a little bit. I don't know who's in it for that right reason. You can tell the authentic ones most of the time, but I just hope we get more people that start bands the way that I think it should happen, because it changes your perspective on how to be a musician, right? Mm-hmm. And it creates memories and things like that, right? You're not just in front of a camera, you're in a room, you're laughing with your 3, 4, 17 band members, like however many, you're just like, you're creating memories in a room. And then when you leave that room after years later, you're like, wow, we recorded 7 records in here or whatever, right? Like there's just so much joy in starting in a more primitive way, where I just hope people still experience that no matter what they do, because again, I know there's pluses and minuses to both, but I hope people still, at least one of the greatest pluses for me of growing up as a musician was like creating those memories of learning riffs together and jamming and, hanging in the studio talking about, what part does this or arguing, you know what I mean? Like to make a point, or, like those are moments that make you stronger. I mean, now I'm older, Josh and Sal, we're all like completely professional. We all see so like-minded, you know, but, you know, sometimes creative differences make a moment, a push and pull of a moment on a record or whatever. You know, I just hope young kids will at least experience that in an organic way before they find whatever it is they're doing, you know, however they want to approach music.
There's definitely something to be said about starting a band or solo project, whatever, doing any kind of art just to do it. Not because you're like, I'm going to make this into I'm going to be the next Jack White, or like I'm going to be, and there's nothing wrong with having goals and shooting for them. That's what I'm saying. But there's something magic about, and again, maybe this is me just being an old man yelling at a cloud, but back when I started playing music, I had no illusions about whether I was going to be a professional musician or not. I was not planning on it. I was like, this is what I love. This is what I'm going to do. But I've said this a million times too. I don't really want to tour. That's not the life I want to lead. I just wanted to be a family guy and play in bands as often as I could because I loved playing in bands, and I didn't care if anybody ever heard it or not. It made me happy to do those things. And then eventually that evolved a little bit over time. I still never thought I was going to be even working in the music industry, so this is a real treat for me. But
it's awesome.
But like, we made it a whole record that I'm really, really, really proud of with my friends. And the whole point of it was just to make the record because we needed to get this music out of our system. Like we had all went through a kind of a collective traumatic time with one of our friends spiraling, and a lot of that record deals with that. And we just did it to do it. And even to this day, not that many people have really heard it. It's out there, but not that many people have heard it, and it's fine. It doesn't matter. Just making music to make music, I think, is a really special thing. Not having it, like you say, be a conduit to something else, I think has a place in this world still. And people should just make things to make things. And that's, I think, an important part of the human experience.
Absolutely. I mean, like you said, goals are important, right? Like, you know, music always starts for me within me, right? I don't output it for any other reason than just making it for myself. But when it's being projected, my goal is, if I believe in it so much, I want it to reach other people, right? And of course, I make music as a career and I love it and it's amazing. You know, and I do love being a decision maker. You know, I love knowing that like you can take a band and build it into something beautiful, not just for business reasons. So, but like that it operates as a business, like, and the outreach happens, like, you know, those are great things. You know, goals are awesome. And if your goal is to be, you know, just a guitar player on social media or whatever, that's cool. As long as it starts from within you in the most organic way possible, then anything you do, no matter if it's more of a old school approach or a new school approach, like it will show authentically. And that's when it's for the right reasons. And that's when I, you know, for lack of a better term with it, you know what I mean? And, you know, like I said, there are tons of people that do it that way. You know, and it gives me comfort going, oh, maybe I can make one of these playthrough kind of things one day, as long as it comes from within me first as a person, a human who loves what I do, and not just like trying to get an attention or whatever in like a calculated way. Then, you know, I'm going to do it because, like I said, I for me, it's there's not necessarily a wrong or a right. It's just different approaches, and one that I stick with more than the other. But I'm here to experiment as a guitar player. You know, I'm a new guitar player essentially in this world. So like, you know, I am down to explore things I've never done, especially because, you know, it keeps you young also, you know, like trying these younger methods and these newer methods. You know, I think that's important because I'm just trying to learn everything I can and not feel like I'm jaded. But as long as I approach everything mentally with how I grew up and like what moves me musically and my motivation, then I'm psyched to try other things, you know?
that's a good segue into something I want to get into. So as somebody who's newish to the guitar world, how do you approach the instrument? Because, you know, some people will sit down, grab the guitar and start playing it, and that's how they come up with their melodies and riffs and ideas. Some people will approach it vocally, or some people will go to the keys. Some people will do other things before they actually get to the instrument. And I've found that some of my best ideas actually come from not having a guitar and then bringing it to the guitar. How do you approach the instrument?
I sit and I play.
Okay.
That is me 100%. I grab the guitar and I just go. I plug in, you know, I have a practice amp, but I just recently got the Tone Master for live. So I just go headphones in, you know, and I have it as an interface on my computer. So the computer only turns on when I have an idea, right? Like I hate recording demos. I'm not the demo computer type of guy. It just like bothers me. I have no patience for it, but I have it. So when I do have ideas and it's there, I'll put it on the exact idea I have after working through it, and I'll record it once and that's it. It goes in a folder until we're looking at stuff or whatever. But for me, I approach the guitar like I pick it up and I just kind of just shut down. You know, I turn the brain off and just go. That's how I play. A lot of the times I will start playing something that I worked on another day, or sometimes it's completely new. But, you know, my approach is just one of spontaneity. I literally just pick up and just go. And then when something sounds cool in a moment, I'll ride it for like a couple minutes. And then if I'm like, all right, I'm not feeling it, like I'll just switch to something else, even after like 5 minutes of playing something. But there's those moments where something really stands out to me. And then I go, oh, I'm going to play this. And then when I really get into it, I will play it and play it and play it with like no end goal other than just getting whatever I think this is exactly how I want it. Like, you know, when my wife heard the record for the first time, she took the headphones off and she was like, it's so crazy to hear this done, because every single guitar line that is on this record, she's like, I literally heard it 500 times a day in your room, whether it was through the headphones or I had, you know, a practice amp up all the way or you know, with no headphones, whether it was me with nothing plugged in, just playing because like I woke up one morning with my coffee and I'm like, I don't even need to plug in. I just want to see if I can articulate this part a little better. And like my wife was like, I have heard all of those riffs like hundreds of times a day, because that's how I am. When it becomes something, I'm like, oh, this is going to be something, like I will play it until I'm like dripping sweat, even just sitting down, just like playing and playing, like, oh, that looked weird, playing and playing like as hard as I can just to get it right. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've played like the New You Anthem riff and gone, you know, because like, oh, this note, this, like this, I want it here and I want to like move it this way. You know what I mean? Like just losing my mind. And, you know, that's my process. Like I like the challenge too. I think once I get something in my head, I want to make it as interesting as possible to me. And then there comes the singing, right? Which I don't even think about the two. I will literally just sing what I think as a song over what it is. And then once we've recorded it, now I'm like, okay, I got to sing and play it. But I've already done that in my mind, right? Like there's no, of course I practice, but there, you know, a lot of people were saying, yo, how are you going to sing these parts and play them? And I was like, well, there's really no other answer, but like this is what I do. I already do it. Like even if we didn't, in the moments we didn't play live, I already knew I had the songs down because I play them in my head every day, every second. I'm singing and playing the song in my head, where it's just naturally, you know, in a way like cognitively connecting. And by the time I'm playing it, it's not really, you know, there is no real difference than in my mind. You know, it's already happened. You know, I don't know if that's manifesting or if it's just practicing mentally, which you can do. You know, it's a big part of practicing in any way. And, you know, I just think when it comes to the guitar playing approach, it's like, for me, I think a song comes from the music first over the vocal. A lot of people do that. And I think that is a very interesting thing where people will have a vocal idea. You know, I'm all for trying that, right? Like in the sleeping, that's what I do. I bring vocals to the already jammed music, or we're jamming in a room. You know, I do think there's something really cool about people like playing a vocal line on a piano and putting it. But for me, I don't know why, like, I never really think singer first in anything. When I listen to records as a singer, most people assume I listen to the vocals as just a vocalist and the lyrics. Like, I don't. I like love instrumentation of like bass and drums. You know, I'm like always drawn to the music first. And I think that's how and why I approach writing that way. You know, everything to me is like catering to the song. But to me, like, hooks are awesome. But if you have like hooks in a song, like musically, like without the vocals, and then you have powerful hooks, like, to me, it's just like, it's the icing on the cake, right? I always think the instrumentation of guitar, bass, drums, or whatever, you know, hip hop beats, like, I think if those are there over anything else, then as long as you have powerful vocals and lyrics, like, to me, that's like the game changer, you know? Because there are a lot of bands that have amazing songs where the songs are just very like 4 on the floor, you know, and there's power in that. But, you know, to make something unique and still strong hooky from all angles is like where it's at, you know? That's another thing I'm very fortunate of in my bands, is like every single member has always been so hooky at their instrument, you know? You don't have to just be a ripper. If you can be a ripper and make hooks, or, you know, you can make hooks just playing 4 chords, that's like the important stuff. And that's how I approach my guitar playing, is like, I just want to make cool ass guitar parts. And then I know Sal and Josh will have their input on what they do. And then we work together on what best suits the song and what best serves the song. But yeah, I mean, like, for me, it's always like music, you know, like it's the instrumentation of those instruments first, you know?
Yeah. So as a new, you know, guitar player, not new guitar player, but new to it being a primary instrument.
Yeah.
How much, for me, like, I obviously love gear, and I love trying different things and experimenting with different things. And the last piece of music that I made and put out publicly was entirely informed by the gear that I was making. I was playing the pedals as much, if not more sometimes, than I was playing the guitar. And I don't know why. It's always been a part of guitar playing that I've really enjoyed, is the different sounds and textures and things you can create. So it really informs my playing a lot. But that's not the case for everybody. Like, do you find that gear really matters that much to your approach to the instrument, or does it not really?
I think I'm finding out that it does, but not in a way where it becomes over analytical. I recorded the record, all of the record, with a Gibson SG from the studio, the Animal Farm. I had come in with some other guitars, and what sounded best for our sound was a Gibson SG. And I was fortunate enough to meet a Gibson rep through a friend, and I'm now endorsed by Gibson. And I see the importance of that guitar, the SG, in my you know, playing, and I see the importance of it on you know, a level that caters to the sound. So, you know, that is definitely gear specific, even if, you know, it's not the technical, you know, aspect that people might be looking for in this answer. But as a whole, I mean, playing a Gibson SG is now the only importance to me from the guitar aspect of like just surface level. I need to play an SG for this band.
Hello there. I'd like to introduce you to your new best friend. Chase Bliss Audio Lossy. Lossy is a collaboration between Chase Bliss and Good Hertz. And it's meant to give you some control over those weird digital artifacts that come with very compressed audio. You're hearing it right now. All the changes that are taking place are strictly coming from my playing dynamics. I'm just interacting with the pedal and letting it do its thing. In some true stereo goodness. If you'd like some more details about Lossy, I'd invite you to head over to chaseblissaudio.com. I think you're gonna like what you find.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
If we knew more about our sleep, what would we do differently? Would we go to bed at a consistent time or take steps to reduce interruptions to our sleep? With Sleep Score, Apple Watch measures your bedtime consistency, interruptions, and sleep duration. Then, every morning it combines these factors into an easy-to-understand score from 1 to 100. So you'll know how to take the quality of your sleep from okay to very high. Know your sleep score with Apple Watch. iPhone 11 or later required.
It makes me so comfortable to play. Every tone is so close, like even just picking up the guitar and putting it through an amp with some distortion. Like, you know, there's a lot of reverb, there's a lot of like space on this record, but even just that SG, like no matter where I plug it in, it's close. And that's very important to me. And then aside from that, I've gone into like the digital world. When I've played guitar in the past, I've always had like pedals, boutique pedals and things like that. And I love them. And I still want to buy tons of them now that I'm a guitar player. But I have a Fender Tone Master and I love it. I mean, it's awesome. I sat in my room for a few days and dialed in each song and got as close as I could to the tones of the record, which they're like 99.9% to me exact. And it's amazing. I mean, I love waking up every morning and running the songs, you know, without putting in headphones to listen to the songs and play along. Like I just put in the headphones of the Tone Master and I just play the songs by myself. And like, it's just like exciting. So I do think gear is important. You know, I think gear is really important. Sal, you know, that is someone you should have on the show. And I'd love to talk to you about that after. If you really want to talk about gear. Sal is so dialed in with his tones, with his gear. He's a freak in the best way. And I'm learning a lot from Sal. You know, I was never into the importance of gear because I didn't play guitar enough. And I think even if it were me in my own way, my own, you know, approach, I probably wouldn't care about gear. But the excitement I see that Sal gets from it hypes me up to want to learn it. And then when I start getting into it, I text Sal, I'm like, you know, I'm looking at SGs on Facebook Marketplace. Even though I'm endorsed, I'm like, oh, what old SGs can I find? Because I'm just going to start collecting. And then I text Sal and I'm like, yo, this one's sick. He's like, that year was okay. Or, you know, whatever. And I'm like, damn, like this is sick. You know, like that was a world I was never really privy to until really now I'm able to like relate to Sal in a gear way because now I play an instrument primarily. And it's fun and I see the importance of it. And I want to learn about the things that, you know, kind of dive deeper than the surface level of liking gear. And, you know, I'm fortunate enough to have someone like Sal in the band because the dude knows like everything. And he's also explorative. It's not like he just thinks he knows everything. He's also looking every day at gear. It's really interesting to see how he talks about it musically and just in general, because I'm not like that. And then getting excited off of his excitement, now I'm realizing a big importance of it. So, you know, also a lot of my guitar playing back in the day, when you're younger, you just borrow amps from your friends and can I use this amp for the show? Like now I, you know, because I'm endorsed by Gibson, I also have Mesa. So I've got a Mesa 2x12 just to push air on stage, even though we're going in-ears, you know, which is a whole other world too that we're getting into, myself and Sal. You know, I need to push air. I want to feel live on the stage, even if I'm going through ears. So I've got my Mesa 2x12, I got my Fender Tone Master, and I have Gibson SGs, and like that is already a world difference of how I would have normally reacted to being in a band as a guitar player. So it is exciting, and I get excited talking about it because, you know, I'm like, oh wow, okay, I'm understanding the Tone Master. How much deeper can I go with it now? What more can I explore with it? Then when does that change, you know? And there's just a lot of cool things that I'm really ready to explore. But, you know, honestly, I'm saying this for sure. Like, you should have Sal on the show, because that dude will be like a guest that everyone will be really stoked on.
Yeah, I'd love to. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah. I'll make that happen. We'll talk after this, but for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny though when you find an instrument, like for you it's the SG. I like to try a lot of different things. I'm not there are gear collectors out there who have 27 Stratocasters. And that's not really like my thing. And I'm not hating on that either. Like, you find what you like and it makes you happy and it makes you make stuff.
For sure.
That's awesome. But for me, I tend to like, okay, I've got that. I've got a Telecaster now, and maybe I want a differently, you know, loaded out Telecaster. Oh, Tele Custom, that's a different thing. Okay, sure. I want some different flavors. But one that always feels like home to me, because I spent so many years on it, is a Les Paul. That's why I've got multiple Les Pauls, is because I love that one. And every time I pick up, I always talk about it, and I look over my little light here and see my first Les Paul I still have. And every time I pick it up, I'm like, this is a great guitar. No wonder I fell in love with the guitar. This thing is still, after all these years and all these things I've played, one of the best guitars I've ever played. And it's not expensive. It's not like a fancy custom or anything. It was an off-the-rack 2003 faded from Guitar Center. And it sounds and plays phenomenal. And I have friends in the business who come over and they'll pick it up and be like, this is an amazing Les Paul. I know. This is how the bug bit me. I thought, like, this is what all guitars are like. But they're not necessarily. But it's just funny that I spent all this time chasing new sounds and stuff, and I still just come back home and be like, nah, but this thing is it. It feels so good to me. I just love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sick. I mean, you know, I will for sure have a collection of guitars at some point where there's different models and brands and whatever. But, you know, my rep taking a chance on me, knowing this was a brand new band, just makes me even more like just inclined and just like proud to represent Gibson, because of how much my rep Taylor has been, you know, there for me. And, you know, there is something to be said about that. And I think that comes through the playing too, just how excited it feels to be like a Gibson endorsed artist. Like, that's not by any means an easy feat. And I am like my first record really playing guitar. And that just makes me more excited to keep collecting SGs, you know, like whether it's on Facebook Marketplace, getting like vintage stuff at a shop somewhere, you know, through my rep, whatever. Like there's like a sense of pride knowing like, oh yeah, like this is home for me. But, you know, like if I find something cool on the streets, like on tour, and I'm like, oh, this looks dope. Like, you know, even having different types of guitars in your room to think of an idea and then transcribe that idea to the guitars you mainly play. It's, you know, for me, every guitar, as everyone knows, and you know, I'm sure as well, it's like every guitar is a different approach in your playing, right? So it's like, I never want to shy away from that. But as long as it all goes back home to like my main guitars that I feel so comfortable playing, they're the heavy I want, they're the clean that I want. You know, there's so much depth and extremes of each side of that. each side of that coin, the heavy and the spacey and the clean and beautiful. Like, I just feel at home with SGs and Gibsons in general. I really like the RDs. I'm really big into those. I love like just the way they look, and I just want to headbang with one of those.
Yes.
But
yes.
I think for me, it's like I'll always go back to the SG and anything Gibson that's like-minded. But, of course, if there's like guitars that lie around in the world that look cool, if it helps me play different for the record, then cool. And, that's just how I feel. And, it's not closing off the creativity of any other type of instrument on the record. It's just like, I want to, I want to be as authentic to the records as possible. And I'm not switching 6 guitars in one song if there's like a thin part or whatever. So it's like, how do we approach the ideas with, if I have a writing idea with different instruments, cool. How do I transcribe that to the SG on record? And, that wasn't me until I made this record, because I had really started playing an SG on the record. And I was like, wow, this is sick. I love this thing. And that was before I was endorsed. So to play an SG and fall in love with it, and then having an intro to then be endorsed is it's really cool, and it makes me know I've grabbed the right instrument,
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, we are knocking on the door of the end of the main episode, and we'll slide over to Patreon, see what kind of nonsense we can get into after that. But I have 2 questions I like to wrap the show up with. But before I do, I like to give the guests a chance to take the stage. You're talking to a few thousand people right now. You can plug anything you want to plug, shout out anybody you want to shout out, say hi to your aunt, like whatever you want to do. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, I feel honored to be a part of this podcast. Like I said, it was, this is my first gear-related podcast as a guitar player, as a new guitar player, if you will. And it means a lot, so thank you. We have a record out. It's called Gray. It just came out a few days ago.
It's great. Go listen to it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah, if you want to hear some instruments, some intriguing and interesting approaches to guitar, bass, and drums, check it out. It's an ode to musicians, and it's an ode to art that I think we're missing a lot of days now. I think it's more for like quantity than it is quality. And there's a lot of bands right now that are bringing the quality back. And I think we're one of those bands that have really tried to make a mark in, kind of the same thing as all these other great bands are doing right now, which is like bringing the quality of music back, at least in rock and roll, right? Like, and I think that's something to note. So if you've got the time, give our album Gray a listen. You can follow us on Instagram, Held Sounds. You can follow us anywhere, and we'll be on tour with Under Oath most of the summer, so you can check out the dates there. And we have a headlining show on June 19th in New Jersey. You can check our Instagram for that, and we'll be playing with Thrice and Hey Mercedes in Albany on June 18th. And yeah, hi, Mom.
Very cool, very cool. Huge. This is you're talking to a huge Thrice fan over here, and love those guys. They're the sweetest people. Love those guys. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Final questions. Here we go. Now, I'm be curious about this one, considering the aforementioned new-ish main instrument portion of the conversation. What is your favorite Boss pedal?
Oh my God. I mean, the one I remember, right, is the Delay, and I don't know which one. It was the white one with the blue knobs.
Okay, yeah, like the DD. Well,
yes.
Could it be any of the DD series? I don't know which one it was exactly, but the DD3 is real common. DD5, DD7. I don't know which one it was.
I think it was a DD3.
Yeah.
And then, does Boss make the loop stations? No, right?
They do, yeah. They
green one that has the knobs.
Oh no, that's line 6.
Okay, yeah, line 6. Okay, that rules.
Yeah.
My favorite Boss pedal is the DD3 3, I believe it was. Because that was one of the first pedals I had as a guitar player when I was a kid, or when I was younger.
I would implore anybody to go back and check out the DD3 or 2 if you can find one. I've got some old ones, and they became so ubiquitous. Everybody had one, everyone saw one at some point. But out of all of the delays that have came out, there's some amazing ones out there. There are some crazy, crazy ones out there. Just go give the old DD3 or DD5 or any of the DD series, just listen to it. They are beautiful sounding delays. And you can pick them up for not a whole lot of money, and they really do a special thing. I love those pedals. That's a good pull. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, they were cool. Yeah. I say it's my favorite one. It was probably like the only one I owned also, but it is my favorite. So
you should get another one. They're easy to pick up. You might be surprised. Yeah. All right, final question. What is your favorite kind of pizza?
I don't know. That's a hard one, living in Jersey City and
I know
being in New York City all the time. I mean, I think I like margarita, but like square.
Okay. Oh, square margarita. All right.
Yeah. I think a square margarita is probably the move for me. That would probably be my top pick. Yeah, I definitely think so, because it's like simplistic, but it's flavorful. I think that's probably it.
Do you have a particular pizzeria you want to plug? If you could just go to one right now.
Not really. I don't really eat pizza that much.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I can't really. I was vegan for 10 years, and for my own reasons, I'm not anymore. And there hasn't been like a pizza place in my recent times of eating pizza where I was like, wow, you know what I mean? Like, I think pizza is just kind of, it's good. And of course there's better places, but I don't think anything's like really moved me yet in a way that I had to make like serious note of it. But I also just don't really eat it that much because I still eat differently, So
yeah,
probably really boring and the answer, but it's just what it is, I don't really have yet a pizza spot that I'm like, oh, you gotta go here. You know what I mean?
Well, you're in the area for it, so I'm convinced you'll find one at some point.
Yeah, for sure. But maybe it's because they're all so good that I don't know which one,
Well, it's fair.
Who knows?
Yeah. It is in an abundance out there for sure.
Yeah.
And it is a different thing. I was super skeptical on it. I'm a Pacific Northwesterner until I visited multiple times and went, I was wrong. This is better.
Yeah. Well, there is the argument that Jersey pizza is better than New York. And that's something that is a very serious, ongoing debate. And I will say I do think Jersey pizza is better.
Oh, so man.
There is that. And, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be mad at that, but,
Oh, if it's not that, they'll be mad at something.
Yeah. That's all right. That's okay.
Cool. Well, Doug, thank you so much for hanging out. We'll slide into Patreon, see what kind of trouble we can stir up over there, if that works for you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, man. Thank you.
All right, everybody. For Doug, this is Blake. And as always, folks, good luck and good tones. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed that episode. And if you did, you're really going to enjoy the Patreon section of the podcast. Doug and I went into the alien territory, as I so often do, but that took a heavy segue into much more psychedelic conversation, and we brought it all the way back around to music at the end of the day, because that's what brings us all together. And if you would like to hear that conversation, $5 a month gets you the bonus conversations and the ad-free feed over on Patreon, and my undying gratitude because it helps out immensely. It literally keeps the lights on around here. Thank you to everybody that does that. I know times are a little weird right now, but it really, really, really moves the needle with us small independent creators. I promise it does. And make sure you check out Held. Let's not distract from that. This band is awesome. I truly, truly have been digging this record. Go stream it up. Go check it out. It is really good stuff. Very impressive musicianship all around and a great listen. Check it out wherever you get your tunes. All right, folks, thank you very much. I will talk to you on the internet very soon. Bye-bye. One last thing before we totally sign off here. I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.